Commission. Today is Monday, October 21st, 2024. The time is 10:02. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Roberson,
Present.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Present.
Commissioner Corvo, Commissioner Barker,
Present.
Commissioner Gasco, Commissioner Londo,
Present.
Commissioner Worthams,
Here.
and Commissioner Lara.
Present.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Attorney Satchel. Moving on to agenda item 2, approval of meeting agenda. My fellow commissioners, is there a motion to approve or amend the agenda?
So moved.
A motion has been made by Commissioner El Hassan. Is there a second?
Support. Second.
We have support from Commissioner Corvu. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion?
A question for our general counsel. Would we need to add the adoption of the AI guiding principles document into the commission business, or is just utilizing item E sufficient?
For clarity purposes, you could do that, but it is assumed in the agenda with respect to the resolution speaking to it. So you can.
I'll leave it as is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously and the agenda is approved. Good morning once again and welcome to the meeting of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission. We thank you for having us here in the Aplex Center in Alpena. Before we continue with our opening matters agenda item, I will ask our General Counsel and Special Advisor, Lamont Satchel, to provide the role and authority of the Commission for our audience.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Michigan Civil Rights Commission was created by the Michigan Constitution in 1963 to safeguard constitutional and legal guarantees against discrimination. The commission is charged with investigating alleged discrimination against any person because of religion, race, color, or national origin, genetic information, sex, sexual orientation, gender identification, age, marital status, height, weight, arrest record, and physical and mental disability. The Michigan Department of Civil Rights was created in 1965 and serves as the operational arm of the commission. Passage of the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act and the Persons with Disabilities Civil Rights Act in 1976 further clarified specific protections guaranteed under Michigan law. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Satchel. Moving on to item B, recognition of significant observances in October. There are several significant observances during the month of October relevant to civil rights, and we would like to recognize the following. For the month of October, we recognize National Hispanic Heritage Month, a month that's special to me since I am Latina, National Disability Employment Awareness Month, National Bullying Prevention Month, Global Diversity Awareness Month, LGBTQ+ History Month. On October 6th, we recognize the birthday of Fannie Lou Hamer. On October 14th, we recognize National Indigenous Peoples Day. And October 17th, we recognize International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. This completes our significant observances for the month of October. Moving on to item C, public comment protocol. We will have Deputy Executive Director Kim Woolridge, who is joining us virtually, to provide the protocol for public comment. Good morning, Ms. Woolridge, and thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Chair Lara and Commissioners. Please note there will be 2 opportunities to provide public comment during today's meeting. If attendees wish to speak during the public comment portion of the agenda, you must sign up to do so now within the next 10 minutes by completing a public comment form. If you require assistance, please notify an MDCR staff member at the sign-in table. When it is time for public comment, Chair Lara will call on attendees in the order in which we receive their request to speak. The public comment time frame for speaking will be 2 minutes. There will be a visual timer showing the following colors: green for 2 minutes, yellow for 30 seconds, and red for stop. The timekeeper will verbally remind each speaker when 30 seconds remains. Please also be aware that MDCR staff will verbally warn any speakers only once if they use inappropriate, inflammatory, or disrespectful language. If use of that language continues, the speaker will be asked to stop commenting. That completes the public comment protocol. Chair Lara, I turn the meeting back over to you.
Woolridge. The next agenda item is adoption of the consent agenda. The following items from the agenda have been identified as those that may not require commission discussion prior to being adopted or received. Items may be removed from the consent agenda on the request of any commission member. Items not removed will then be moved for adoption by general consent without debate. Removed items will be taken up later in the agenda as indicated. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Madam Chair.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Worthams. Is there a second?
Second.
We have support from Commissioner El Hassan. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to adopt the consent agenda as submitted, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously and the consent agenda is adopted. Our next agenda item is approval of minutes. We have received and reviewed the draft minutes from the July 22nd, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
Madam Chair.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Worthams. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry.
Second.
We have support from Commissioner Roberson. Is there any discussion or revisions to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the July 22nd minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously and the July 22nd minutes are approved. Our next agenda item is public comment. Again, if anyone in the audience would like to give public comment, please complete one of the gold forms made available at the registration desk table. Ms. Sanford will collect the forms. As a reminder, we will be taking comments in the order received. You will have 2 minutes to speak before the commission. Please note our virtual timekeeper is Mark Bishop. Ms. Sanford, have we received all the forms?
There are no forms at this time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We will offer an additional opportunity for public comment towards the end of the meeting, which is agenda item 10. Our next agenda item is division and other reports. We will start with our Executive Director, Attorney John E. Johnson, Jr. Good morning, Director Johnson. We have your written report and you have the floor.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much. I'll just hit some highlights from that written report, which you have received. Starting out with our personnel, we have 155 full-time staff members as of the end of the fiscal year. Fiscal year ran from October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2024. And we have 75 vacant FTEs as of that date. Of the 155 FTEs, 111 are in our enforcement division. And of the 75 vacancies, 66 are also in the enforcement division. The enforcement division does have currently posted and have plans to hire about 35 people for the next few weeks. So that'll cut into those vacancies. Those vacancies are primarily limited term positions, by the way, not full-time. This is a result of the one-time monies we received in the past 2 fiscal years for specific purposes. So those vacancies, again, will be filled, but most folks who are hired on a limited term basis are given a date certain when they'll either have to separate from us or their contract, their term may be renewed, or they may assimilate into the permanent full-time staff. We've also had some in-house promotions. Most significantly, I think Dr. Jerome Reed retired earlier this year, and following interviews, I decided to hire in-house Annie Uraski, who was a director of the Division on Deaf, Blind, and Hard of Hearing. Very, very competent in this area. Public policy is her background, and she has already hit the ground running, has really provided a lot of information to me and the staff in terms of legislative work. So we're pleased that she began that position at the very beginning of the fiscal year. And then Elena Buford Camerman was promoted to acting director of our Office of Legal Affairs. Organizational change. I collapsed a couple of things together and created the special projects. I combined special projects and communication division to create the strategic initiatives public information division. Harold Core, who's in the audience today, is the director of that. And under him is a direct report of Vicki Levengood, Liliana Stonebeck, who's our funding coordinator, and Patricia Barrera, who's been with the agency for several years. Together, they have, and then Vicki has direct reports of Annika Clemens, our social media coordinator, and Peyton Shane, our graphic designer. So together, they're combining this division, and they will be responsible for all commission and department public information, such as newsletters, websites, social media, brochures, media relations, press releases and advisories, op-eds, etc. They also, as you know, coordinated the summit. We'll be doing the same for next year and also be following up on the summit. You'll hear more from Mr. Core on that later this meeting, and also engage in our strategic planning. And I'll talk about that in a minute too. We are opening up our Flint office, reopening our Flint office. You know, we at one point had 9 offices across the state. Now only 3, now 4 with Flint reopening. It's open officially. We're having open house on October 28th from 4 to 6. Certainly you're invited to come. We've invited all of our community partners and elected officials. Are very excited that we reestablished a presence in Flint. We have a full team there with anticipations of bringing another team on board. So we're in the Flint State Office building, so plenty of opportunity and to connect with that community and then to expand our staff there. I just mentioned in terms of the strategic initiatives and public information, they're engaged in strategic planning. Liliana Stonebeck, I mentioned this at the last meeting, has been engaged in a re-engineering process for us. She's talked to almost every person in the agency, put together some flow charts, talked about processes, come up with at least 15 pages of recommendations of process changes. At the same token, the enforcement division has formulated their policies. There's some overlap. We're reconciling those, but we'll use Liliana's work as a foundation for looking at our process and increasing our efficiency within the department. Some things are touched several times, more times than they have to be. perhaps. But also they'll combine that with the vision of, I think I mentioned earlier, Lana, Buford Kamerman, charge of our Office of Legal Affairs, who has a vision for that office, which really complements a lot of things that Lillian is looking at. So we hope to come out with a more with a process that again will allow us to systematize some of the work that we do, certainly cut down on some of the inefficiencies that we have, always looking to improve, and then perhaps again render a better customer service. And I'll talk again more about that in a minute. Budget update, and we ended fiscal year 2024 on September 30th. We spent approximately 20.2 million of the 23.7 we had available in general fund dollars. The balance was will go into another work project for us. I really want to continue working about voting rights work. So we're going to use money on that, and then use some of that money also to look at our disparate impact work, and specifically artificial intelligence. You see there again under fiscal year 24 list of the ongoing funding that we had, the one-time funding that we had, and the work projects that we had for this past fiscal year. Of the work projects, they total 5.4 million. We only spent 1.2, so at least 4.2 again to spend out over the next 3 or 4 years. Fiscal year 25, which began on October 1st, we did receive a $2 million increase in ongoing funding for additional 9 FTEs. That money is targeted for our enforcement division. Fiscal year 26, already preparing for that. We've had meetings. We did submit 2 proposals for change, and one goes back to efficiency and trying to get some sense of what we can do in order to increase the efficiency of the investigators and those in the enforcement division. And talking, I've done some one-on-ones, well, a lot of one-on-ones with staff over the past 2 or 3 months. Talked to most of the investigators, the intake workers, et cetera. Came up with a couple of things that they thought that we could do. But one of them that struck me was investigators spend a lot of time perhaps doing some referrals for customers. If they can't help them, even if they can, there's ancillary issues which need referrals. So we're submitting a proposal for change which would sharpen our referral work, which would enhance that, do more than just give somebody a number, but allow us to perhaps do some better connection with some referral agencies, make sure that people are not just lost and that they have a direct contact with some of the agencies to which we want to refer them for some, again, ancillary issues that they may have. Could it be housing, landlord, tenant, et cetera. So we're submitting a proposal for that to create a full-time ongoing referral coordinator. You want to capture those numbers too. We do a lot of referrals. I mean, that's work. That's work that the staff does, and we're capturing complaints, but we're not capturing a lot of things that we do. And that's one of them. We receive a lot of phone calls. Some of them result in complaints. Some of them do just result in referrals. So we want to be able to capture that information because we are having that impact. We can follow up if we can on that. So that's one of the proposals for change. The other one will be from our diversity, equity, and inclusion division. We really want to expand that work. And we've been trying to do that since I've been here. We've gone now to at least, so Alfredo has 2 specialists now working for him. We want to expand that work some more given where we are in today's society. So we're asking for more money to include that. And all that would include part of his work on that language access plan. State law went into effect early this year, which requires state departments to have a language access plan looking at the top 5 languages in the state. We're leading in that in terms of making sure that our department has a language access plan and it's implemented and executed, and then work with other state agencies, but specifically through the Office of Business and Global Change in order to make sure that we realize language access throughout the state. So we're asking for money for that also in order to increase the work in that area. Under enforcement, our federal contract ended again at the end of the fiscal year. Initially, we had a contract to do 668 cases. We had no problem meeting that since 2022. This year, they lowered it based on their funding from 668 to 608. We were easily able to do that and also able to do our intake quota So we complete our federal contract, got some cases left over to actually to apply to this fiscal year. Same thing with our HUD contract. Current for the entire year, we took in about 8,613 new complaints for an average of 718 complaints per month. So the increase in staff has really come in handy in these new matters which have come to us. We completed a little over 2,000 investigations for the fiscal year. In our current case inventory, we have 3,229 open investigations. You see that breakdown, and you see also that little over 1,300 are more than 1 year old. And I've been assured that the cases for 18 and 19 will be gone by the end of this year. And we'll only be dealing with those hopefully in 20 and 21 and 22. Contract compliance. We were looking at trying to extend some contract compliance work to local units of government, but apparently our outreach has not been that successful. So we decided to suspend that and concentrate more on contract compliance within the state agencies, which is mandated by ELCRA anyway. So we're focusing more on looking at contract compliance and making sure we work with DTMB to make sure that that state agencies are complying with the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act within their contracts. You have a legislative report there from Annie in terms of some bills that are pending, which are relative to some of the work that we do. As Commissioner Worthams know, they are back. They're in session. They're active. What this does not include is a bill on perinatal racism, which was introduced and passed through the Senate committee last week, which involves us. They want us to take reports. They also want us to. This also would amend ELCRA. So we're monitoring that. We believe that what they've asked us to do in the legislation is could be more expertly done by Department of Health and Human Services, not by us. We don't do public health. And they're asking us to do public health. And so that's been our response to that piece of legislation. And it really, once again, commissioners, it really, to me, just evokes the whole issue of them asking the department to do some things that are not screened through you, sanctioned by you, and as you know, we are the operating arm of you. So it does, to me, always raise those questions. They start to include the department in these pieces of legislation in terms of telling us to do things which are not within the parameters of what we're constitutionally mandated to do, and certainly not without your knowledge or discussion. Just putting that on the table once again, commissioners, for you to consider as we go forward. But that's and we've stated our position in writing to some of these things in terms of where we are in the department, what our role and our responsibilities are. But we'll see what happens in the House on this bill, on that bill. Again, Mr. Cora will come and give you a report on a Civil Rights Summit in terms of what was accomplished. So I won't be redundant. I'll let him report to you on that later on in the meeting. But we did come away with a number of recommendations, both on the administrative and legislative side, which will be implemented by Patty Barrera as part of his new division. Again, they'll be looking at, as I mentioned before, implementing recommendations from the past summit, but then planning for the coming summit, which, by the way, I didn't put that in my report, will focus on persons with disabilities. We've decided that will be a focus of the 2025 summit, and that's being planned by Mr. Core and by Tyra Khan, director of our Disability Rights and Compliance Division. Native American boarding school study. Again, I've been assured that's coming up too also in a report. I think you asked for that, so you'll be hearing about that more from Alfredo Hernandez Corzin later on in the meeting. But they've assured me that that will be completed by January, which is the deadline in the legislation. So again, Alfredo will give you more information on that. Community engagement, we did have our hate crime conference in September and was attended by more than 300 attendees. Thank you, Chair, for attending that. Also, working again with our Youth Academy and in University of Michigan. We've agreed to fund that at a small amount, about 25,000 seed money to get them going as they feature and work on a number of issues that are important to us in the civil rights arena. And in Voting Rights Project, again, you'll hear about that later too. Camellia Landrum will be presenting. Anthony Lewis may not be able to present. He had something, a family emergency this morning, but Camellia will be able to present that to you later on in this meeting. And I believe that ends my report, commissioners.
Thank you, Director Johnson, for your report. Commissioners, are there any questions? Commissioner Wortham?
Director, thank you for your report. Very thorough and substantive as always. And I'm glad to hear that our new legislative liaison, Annie Uraski, thank you, is getting on board, and she has a very strong background from what I've been able to observe. As we come to the end of the 102nd legislature, we have to start thinking about the start of the 103rd next January. There will be a number of new legislators that are elected and a number of legislators who are returning, who I get the sense are still not familiar with what the role of the commission and the department might be. And so if you could, as you pass on my congratulations to Annie for her new position, if you give her a suggestion that if there are ways that she can use us as part of her toolbox in building those relationships, helping with that education on the commission, on ELCRA, on the department, please reach out to us and let us know so that we can be a part of that. I think particularly with the newly elected folks, if they see faces that they can attach to names, it might help with that process. And so I know I, for one, I can't speak for their other commissioners, but I know I, for one, will be very happy to help out with that process as the 103rd starts.
Absolutely, Mr. Commissioner, we will certainly do that. I think the relationships that the people at this table have are very valuable in terms of what we will be trying to push our agenda. I didn't mention we also will once again have to introduce the amendments to ELCRA that we want to see adopted. So that process will start all over. And certainly, again, we'd appreciate any assistance any of you can give us in making sure that we are able to be successfully have those enacted. So thank you, Commissioner. We'll be calling you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Wortham. Are there any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Roberson?
Just quickly, Director Johnson, is there anything else we can do to support you and to support the department when there are suggestions about things you all should be working on? Is there anyone we should be speaking to and saying, hey, listen, this is outside the realm of what the commission has voted on or what our priorities are for this year, or outside the scope of what the department should be doing that we can do to support?
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Again, that bill I just mentioned, as it heads towards the House, that's something we probably may want to do immediately in terms of reaching out to some key folks in that chamber in terms of your position as a commissioner, as a commission on this. So absolutely, we'll be in touch. Right. And
Thank you,
may I
Commissioner.
suggest we do that perhaps through Commissioner Wortham's, perhaps?
Yeah, Madam Chair. With your
Yes.
permission. Yeah. If I could play a role in that, great. Or if we need to tag team it, just let us know who the targets are, and then we can try to figure the strategy from there.
Yes, I am also very interested in assisting with that, particularly through the end of the year.
Okay, absolutely. So we'll notify the executive committee, certainly, of what we can do, of what you can do, and then you can notify some of the other commissioners that you want to be involved.
Great,
All
thank
right,
you.
great, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a quick question, Director. You mentioned the top 5 languages in the state. Could you please inform us as to which ones they are?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
I'm not sure if they do yet either, by the way.
Ah,
But we do know, obviously, English, Spanish, Arabic are the top 3.
right.
And I think they're trying to determine what 4 and 5 will be.
Very good. I look forward to learning.
But if they have, I'll try to find that out before the meeting's over.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you again, Director, for your report. We will now move on to the next agenda item. General Counsel report from Attorney Lamont Satchel. Good morning, Mr. Satchel. We have received your written report and you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Thank you. You do have my report. There's only one additional highlight I would make with respect to my report that occurred subsequent to the submission, preparation and submission of my report to the Commission. And that relates to the current process that we're in terms of changing the, making amendments to the Commission rules. As I indicated in my report, we had recently completed what we thought was the final version of the rules. We're working on a matter that would allow us to summarily dispose of the classification of matters that came before the department early on in the process to make our process more efficient. We were able to do that, but while in the process of doing that, one of the issues that came up was with respect to a current right and power that this commission has to hold what in effect are public hearings. Most recent example of that being with the housing hearings that we had. And so there's language in the rules, in a part of the rules, Rule 12. And Rule 12 basically deals with Rule 12 hearings, and that's when a matter based on a charge comes before the commission. But there's also language plucked in there that speaks to what in effect are public hearings. And so the team of us that was working on it thought that it's probably appropriate at this time, since we're going through the commission rules, to tease that out so that there's no confusion there with respect to a public hearing or a quote unquote Rule 12 hearing, which is based on a charge that is filed by the department or the commission. So we've met to do that last week, and we've made some purported changes to that part of the rules, which will be reviewed this week. And once that's done, we'll move forward with resubmitting our changes to MOHAR, and we'll keep you apprised of where we are in the process. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all that I have.
Thank you, Attorney Satchel, for your report. Commissioners, are there any questions? Seeing none, we will move on to the next agenda item. Fair Housing Report by Harold Kaur, who serves as Division Director of Strategic Initiatives and Public Information. Good morning, Mr. Kaur, and thank you for joining us today. You have the floor.
Thank you, Commissioner. So as you know, beginning last November, we began a series of 4 public fair housing hearings in Detroit, virtual Grand Rapids, and Flint. As a result of those, we collected around 8 hours of testimony, which included some recommendations for things that the Department of Civil Rights and other state agencies and other actors can do to sort of improve the conditions related to fair housing in Michigan. We followed this up with a Civil Rights Summit in June of 2024, which was an opportunity to bring together some experts with the public and others and really talk about which of these recommendations can work and have discussions around a number of topics on fair housing to try to get a grip on some of the best recommendations for what we can do moving forward. This all ended in a summary report that was created that lists those recommendations. It provides some summaries of the testimony provided at the hearings, some summaries of the discussions at the Civil Rights Summit, and the executive summary, for example, does list some of the common themes in terms of those recommendations moving forward. The report is currently on our website, has been distributed to legislators, the governor's office, and also an email was sent to the commission so they can see that report. Over the next few months, as the director mentioned, Patty Barrera in our office will be following up on some of the recommendations toward the summit. Specifically, there were a number of requests during the hearings and the summit by members of the public indicating that they were not aware of their rights. They were not aware of what entities they could contact for enforcement assistance or other kinds of assistance. There were also requests to let landlords know, property managers know the limits of their rights and responsibilities in terms of tenants. There were also requests to let real estate agents, developers, and others know about how fair housing laws can affect the work that they do. Appraisers is another example. So one of the things that's, I guess we'll start with three kind of categories of things we'll be doing over the next few months. One is public relations and outreach kinds of campaigns just to let people know about their rights, directed at, like I said, the public, tenants, landlords, property owners and such. We'll also be engaging in a series of trainings towards some of those entities. And then thirdly, there were some other kinds of recommendations that are more policy and or recommendations for state departments or private entities, fair housing groups, things of that nature to try to address things. So we'll be doing some outreach related to those kinds of recommendations. For example, there was a request to let local zoning entities know about how fair housing laws can impact some of the zoning language, especially language that was drafted decades ago. So that'll be a project where we kind of reach out to some of those zoning entities and provide assistance to let them know how they can craft zoning rules that do not promote any kinds of exclusionary zoning outcomes. But there are a number of other issues of that nature where we'll be doing outreach to specific entities to kind of discuss these recommendations. One last thing I wanted to mention is we do have, as a result of the hearings and the summit, a number of volunteers from organizations, state departments, fair housing groups, real estate, realtors, and others who have volunteered to get involved in whatever we do from this point on in terms of trying to realize some of these fair housing recommendations. So I think that's good news. We're a growing department, but it's always good to have a partnership base outside of one organization that's committed to fair housing and that is committed to helping us to push some of these recommendations forward. With that, I'll close my report unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kaur, for your presentation. Are there any questions? Thank you. I attended, I believe, most of the fair housing meetings, and you gave a very succinct report as to the outcomes. There was quite a lot of emotion with the people who were testifying, but thank you for distilling and moving forward. I'm particularly interested in the education for zoning because some people don't always consider that zoning might be affecting fair housing. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
We will now move on to the next agenda item, which is a virtual presentation on the Voting Rights Initiative. Joining us today is Camilla Landrum, Executive Director of the Detroit Branch NAACP. Good morning, Ms. Landrum, and thank you for joining us virtually today.
Thank you for having me. I am very excited to be able to present on the Voting Rights Project today. Tony Lewis is also able to join us, and he's on the line with us. Tony. So I'll let Tony start with the introduction to our project, and then I'll go into our PowerPoint. Tony?
Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. You have to excuse me, and I'm kind of doing a couple things at once this morning. But yes, I have the pleasure of introducing our voter rights project. Commissioners, one of the things I wanted to be brief, but one of the things we have is wanted to, in addition to Camelia's report today, one of the things I have exciting news is that our Youth Academy, Director Johnson spoke of our commitment to the Youth Academy. Well, one of the things that we've done, some exciting news, is that we've mobilized our Youth Academy, and they are now doing Get Out the Vote events under our Voter Rights Project in their respective schools, at the University of Michigan, at Wayne State, at Western, and in their respective high schools for their 18-year-old peers. So I just wanted to ensure that you know that we are working diligently, and myself and Camelia are working diligently to ensure that this project is comprehensive and that we ensure that we serve the residents here of our state of Michigan. So, Camelia, I will turn that back over to you for your comprehensive report. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, great. I can see it through the camera. So the purpose of today is to share a status update of our current outcomes of the Voting Rights Initiative in relation to the resolution passed by the Michigan Civil Rights Commission on May 23rd, 2022. So far, for our social media presence, we've ran 5 social media campaigns through 2023 and 2024, exceeding over 3.4 million impressions. I can let you know now that the campaigns perform best when they are paid campaigns. And so we're excited to be able to see these higher numbers based on us being able to run them. These campaigns have used videos and graphics to help raise awareness about voting as a civil right. We've targeted all genders that permanently live in Michigan from age 18 to 65. In addition, for our voting rights campaign, some of the topics we've addressed include accessible voting, early voting, making a voting plan, student voting, and reporting harassment and intimidation. On the right of the screen is an example of one of the social media posts geared towards our student voters, which reads, "Are you attending a Michigan college far from home? In-state and out-of-state, students can register to vote at their school address." We've been consistent with making sure we are promoting the Michigan Voter Information Center. So you'll consistently see the website michigan.gov/vote. We also created a partner toolkit that we've been able to send out to about 200 community partners that are currently already on board with the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. And we were able to send this out for the primary election that took place in August, and then updated it for the general election. Everyone should have received a copy of the toolkit in their meeting agendas, but we can resend it if you did not. The meeting toolkit includes sample social media messages, e-blast, and voter information that can easily be reposted. This is always great for organizations who may not have the time to create their own social media posts, but just want to still be able to share information about voting as a civil right. We also have distributed voter education awareness, hosted events and materials. So we have statewide distribution of materials to community groups and students. So these are at all of our fairs and sessions that we have helped conduct. We also have hosted over 20 voter education sessions, including the Division of Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing Council meeting. And we've created a permanent website on the Michigan Department of Civil Rights page, which includes pertinent information on Voting Rights Initiative, voter registration, education. It's also a space that houses the voter toolkit, all of our social media items that can be reposted. So we're really excited that this page is permanently a part of the MDCR information website. We have been diligent about translating some of the information into Spanish and Arab language. So you will see, for example, this palm card on the left, it says voting is a civil right in Spanish. And then on the right with the QR code, it leads you to the Michigan Voter Information website. Same, this is another example of a voting is a civil right palm card that we have for students that has been translated into Arabic. And when you flip it on the back, it also has that QR code leading to the voter information website. We were able to get statewide billboards up. These are all of the cities that you see where we have coverage of billboards for the campaign Voting as a Civil Right. So from Escanaba to Allen Park, the Traverse City, Lansing, all across the state, we have these billboards that are running. And I do know for sure that some folks have seen them in place. So that makes us really excited that the information is continuing to get out there. This is an example of some of the billboard artwork that has been translating into Arabic and into Spanish. And so we've been very consistent about voting as a civil right. We understand that we are not running a get out to vote campaign, but a voter education campaign. And so we are staying on message to make sure everyone can feel, everyone that has access to the information can feel that it is created for them. This is additional billboard artwork, voting as a civil right, and all your rights are riding on it. And so these are some of the examples that you are seeing statewide that are in the cities that were mentioned. We also have radio ads running. So these are 30-second ads in Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, Washtenaw, portions of Monroe, Genesee, Lapeer, St. Clair, Sanilac, Grand Rapids metro area, and other portions of West Michigan. In total, we have 236 radio spots, and we also have a diversity of voices that have been presented. So we're excited that we were able to get the radio ads up and running, and the scripts also speak to voting as a civil right and participating in this year's election. We are also in the process of our voter education mailer. These are specifically targeted to Spanish and Arab speaking households and businesses in the Detroit, Metro Detroit area. You will see on one side, the information is presented in English. It also has that QR code that leads to the Michigan Voter Information Center. And on the opposite side, it has the same information translated into English and also translated into Arabic. So we're trying to make sure that language access is available when we're doing this voting rights campaign, and that folks can read it in their native language and in English if they need to. Now through November, we continue to have increased communications targeting disabled voters, language access needs, and other vulnerable populations, such as those who are housing insecure, students, and returning citizens. In addition to Tony's announcement for the youth at the colleges that he mentioned for them hosting their own Get Out to Vote programs, we also just mailed out to 20 colleges and universities information that can be put in their student centers about the campaign Voting as a Civil Right. And that goes from University of Michigan to Michigan Tech, Wayne County Community College, Kalamazoo, Kettering, Sault Ste. Marie. We are trying our best to make sure we have statewide coverage and also community colleges and universities in that mix. Onward activities, we definitely believe that we can continue forward with educating youth and young adults, not only around just getting out to vote, but civic engagement, understanding how government works, and understanding voting rights and their personal rights and how they're really connected. We definitely want to continue focusing in on language access, disability access, and artificial intelligence and voting rights as well. That concludes the presentation for this morning, and I am happy to answer any questions that we may have.
Commissioners, are there any questions?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Londo, you have the floor.
Not so much a question as a comment. I made the trek from Marquette to Alpena on Friday afternoon and was able to see two very large billboards, one in Marquette and one, I believe, just on the other side of St. Ignace. So I want to commend you and this department for making that so very visible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Londo. Are there any other comments or questions? Commissioner Worthams?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of following up on Orlando's comment. It's nice that every time I get to make my commute from the Capitol to my home in Kalamazoo, that I get to see a big billboard in the Galesburg area as well. I'm not sure if they were strategically located to make sure that the commissioners are seeing them. But if so, well done. But more seriously, I just want to thank all the folks who are working on this initiative. One of the things that the Voting Rights Subcommittee was trying to do was to highlight if there are issues or if there are problems out there, particularly in rural parts of the state, about people being able to have access to the ballot. And I think what the initiative has shown is that information is power, and reminding people that elections are coming up is a very powerful piece of information as well. And so I think as we go through the next 15 days going into this election, not that we're counting down, I think we're starting to see an uptick in number of ballots being requested, number of ballots being returned. I was just looking at the L2 data website showing that for Michigan, that there appears to be an increase in suburbs and in rural areas of the state as far as ballots being requested and returned. And I think that's a very positive thing. And so I want to congratulate the folks working on the initiative. I look forward to the continued work, and I think that we've been very successful so far, and I look forward to continued success in the future. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Withams. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you so much. I have a couple of comments, and first of all, I believe that the commission passed this resolution regarding voting rights as civil rights in 2022. So I'm really glad to see that, all the efforts of making it come to fruition, and it also gives us some thoughts as to some of our long-term goals as well as roles of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission is education in as many ways as possible for the people of the state of Michigan. On a personal level, I actually did do a door knocking session in Grand Rapids in a precinct that only had 7% of its registered voters voting in previous elections. It was a get out the vote rather than focusing on any one candidate, but it's making certain that people understood that when they vote, their voices are heard. And the best example that we gave them is there was the speed bumps on their street. And I said, the reason traffic is slower now is because of these speed bumps. And the reason the speed bumps are here is because someone who voted actually spoke to their local city commissioner. So this is what can happen, both not just at the national level, but also at the local level where it affects you every day. So thank you so much for your reports. We will now move on to the next agenda item, which is a virtual presentation and update on the Native American boarding school study. Joining us today is Alfredo Hernandez Corson, Division Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the department. Good morning, Mr. Hernandez, and thank you for joining us virtually today. You have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the Michigan Native American boarding school study. As we already know, the governor's office called for a study, which our department oversees, in partnership with Kaufman and Associates, a tribal advisory group and Native American women-owned company, which looks to gain an understanding of the history of Michigan Native American boarding schools and the impact they had on Native American children and their families. The goal of this preliminary study is to help move towards healing and reconciliation for survivors and their descendants. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the tremendous support and guidance provided by our former tribal liaison, Melissa Keysweater, whose knowledge, relationships with the Native American community, and expertise in the subject matter continue to be of vital importance for the success of this study. Michigan Native American boarding schools cause profound loss of identity, family, and culture across generations. Research verifies that 1 in 4 Native Americans experience feelings of loss from historical trauma, which may continue to impact their lives. Once again, the goal of this preliminary study is to help move towards healing and reconciliation for survivors and their descendants. And the information needed to gain understanding of the Michigan Native American boarding school study will come from literature reviews, interviews with scholars, survivors, and families of Native American boarding schools, as well as surveys and questionnaires. At each phase of this exploration, historical trauma, trained personnel, and resources will be available for Native American boarding school survivors and descendants, should any of them feel distressed due to sharing their experiences. Recruitment of survivors and descendants will utilize an Indigenous informed approach, and intentions and next steps will be communicated with tribal communities in advance. The result of this exploration will be the creation of materials, for example, brochures, flyers, digital stories, and social media posts to illustrate the legacy of the boarding schools and to share recommendations from survivors and their descendants. Above all, this essential work will tell the story of the tragic process of assimilation that has and continues to impact Native American families. A number of steps have been taken to collect data for the study, which include one-on-one interviews facilitated by trained individuals who spent time with survivors' descendants in conversation to record their truth and their experiences. Interviews also include audio and video recorded by trained teams. Kaufman and Associates teams also provide follow-up to the survivors by reaching out at different intervals. Kaufman and Associates is also compiling these records, editing and producing the appropriate digital records of these truth-sharing interviews. So far, 3 community engagement events have been held in various reservations, and 1 more community engagement event is scheduled for Southeast Michigan and will be co-hosted with the urban Indian organizations in the Detroit area. Each event includes opportunities for talking circles and for individuals to schedule and complete one-on-one truth-sharing interviews. Each event also provides time for fellowship, sharing, healing, and conversations, as well as resources that are both local, statewide, and national for survivors and their families. Online surveys, questionnaires are being conducted, and approximately 118 surveys have been submitted by descendants and family members of boarding school students. Approximately 35 surveys have been submitted by actual boarding school survivors. The Tribal Advisory Group, consisting of at least 1 representative from each participating tribe, meets on a regular basis. The Tribal Advisory Group has the opportunity to review documentation and has the opportunity to provide input on the creations of surveys, questions, and messaging. The tribal leaders are also engaged through updates, individual conversations, and scheduled meetings. Both the Tribal Advisory Group and the tribal leaders will be invited to review all documents and reports before final production. At present time, the literature review is in its final editing stages and has been shared with the Tribal Advisory Group for feedback. In its current form, the document is, again, 111 pages long. The literature review provides explanation of key concepts in the Michigan Native American boarding school experience, such as treaties and tribal sovereignty, and discusses characteristics of enrolled children's experiences while attending Native American boarding schools. Topics covered will include first days, daily routine, structure, resistance, inhabitable conditions, and cultural identity. The subsequent section compares the boarding school experience in Michigan with other states according to 4 primary areas: historical background, geographic influences, political and policy structures, and personal student encounters. This analysis helps to gain fuller awareness of the unique and similar experiences faced by students who attended Michigan Native American boarding schools and their families. The literature review also provides more in-depth information about the history and context of Native American boarding schools in Michigan. Key sections will include a detailed discussion of major federal policies that shape the Native American boarding school experience. These federal policies demonstrate not only the government's role, but also certain precarious conditions within the school that require federal oversight and rulemaking. The role of the U.S. Department of the Interior and Indian trust monies is then described to demonstrate how the Department of Interior has consistently misused Indian monies of individual Native Americans held in trust, including the funding of Native American boarding schools. The inclusion of educational provisions among treaties with tribes in Michigan is then fully outlined to provide a legal context behind the creations of such schools. The last substantive section of this report discusses the policy criteria for the forceful removal of children and how there were differences in application and enforcement. Case studies of the forceful removal of Native American children are also included. Finally, the document ends with a discussion of areas for further research and next steps for this study. Given that nearly all Native American boarding schools in Michigan had religious affiliation, the report provides an overview of key comparisons across U.S. geographic regions of boarding schools within religious affiliation. The Michigan Native American Boarding School Study is on target to be completed by the end of January 2025. This concludes my report. Open to any questions, and thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. Hernandez, for your presentation. Commissioners, are there any questions? I have a couple of comments. Thank you. For people who are wondering why this is so important, imagine if you were a young child and you're completely torn away from your family, your relatives, everyone you know, forced to speak a completely different language, forget all your traditions, and be thrown into an arena with many other children suffering the same type of issues. These are generational. So it doesn't just affect the person that this happened to, but also the succeeding generations. So what we're starting to come to a conclusion and to realize is that we need to provide spaces so that healing can begin, to honor and respect the people who have suffered this, mainly because they were on lands that settlers wanted and that they were considered not smart because of traditions and their beliefs totally different from the prevailing traditions and beliefs of the settlers. So thank you so much for this presentation, and I look forward to reading the final report. Yes, Director Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before he goes, Alfredo can answer the question about the 5 languages.
Yes. So Alfredo, there was a question directed at the director. He presented in his report, they're looking at what the top 5 languages in the state are in order to be able to ensure that all resources for the state are available in those languages. Can you let us know what those 5 languages are?
Yes, Madam Chair. Currently, as it stands, and this is a work in progress, there's an extensive list of languages spoken in our state. Currently, as it stands, we have Arabic, Spanish, English, and we also have Mandarin and Cantonese, and the written form of Chinese language, if you will. Those are the main 5 languages that we're looking to operationalize across the state within the next 3 years. If anything changes, we'll make sure that the director and the commission knows any changes that come up. But as of right now, those are the top 5 languages.
Hernandez. We will now move on to the next agenda item. The Attorney General report from Assistant Attorney General Kim Pendrick. Good morning, Attorney Pendrick, and thank you for joining us today. We have received your written report and you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Commissioners. I think I'll just take the opportunity to highlight a couple of the cases that we're handling that may be of interest to the Commissioners. But we have a case involving 3 religious entities who have filed separate lawsuits against the department. And what they are alleging is that their religious freedoms are infringed by the incorporation of sexual orientation and gender identity into the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. We obtained dismissal of all 3 of those cases due to the lack of standing, which is a legal principle that you have to have some harm to you in order to bring a suit, and no action has been taken against any of these entities. We went to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals after these entities appealed the decision of the district court, and we were remanded on 2 entities, Christian Healthcare and Sacred Heart, and St. Joseph was affirmed for dismissal just based on the nature of how they pled their claim. So we are back in the district court on 2 of those cases right now.
Can I just ask on the standing issue, how did the court on appeal view that?
They, in looking at the opinion, what they're finding is there is a credible threat of enforcement. You don't always have to have an injury, at the initiation of a suit. If you have a statute that clearly prescribes your conduct and there's a threat that it can be enforced against you, courts will permit
really
standing,
narrow.
but it's very narrow. And the decision we received even indicated in it that this was a very close question for the court. So.
And that came out of the Sixth Circuit.
Correct.
Not surprising.
The next case is the City of Grand Rapids case against the agency. They have been charged with discrimination in their police practices. And in the case that they were charged on, they brought a lawsuit in the Court of Claims arguing that a 3-year statute of limitations applies to the time the department has to bring a charge. And that is the time that an individual has to bring a claim in a circuit court if they want to pursue a claim on their own. And our argument is it does not apply to the department itself. The Court of Claims ruled that it did not have jurisdiction because it was in the administrative process. And it also held that the statute of limitations did not apply, and they have appealed that decision. So we're waiting for oral argument on that case. And finally, the Studio 8 case is a hair salon that advertised that it would not serve the transgender community. The hair salon filed a lawsuit in a circuit court, which does not have jurisdiction over state entities. So we were able to get that claim dismissed. They have currently appealed that case, and they're arguing constitutional issues instead of jurisdictional issues, but our office is handling the briefing and awaiting oral argument on that case also. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Attorney Pendrick, for your report. Commissioners, are there any other questions? Seeing none, we will move on to the next agenda item, commission business. The first item under commission business is Chair's report. My report is as follows. Most of my report will be in my closing comments, but I wanted to mention that we are meeting in Alpena, Michigan, commonly known in this area as the Sunrise City, since this is one of the first places in Michigan where the sun rises, or where you can see the sunrise. And it is, nice small community and focused on a lot of nature, including the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, which as well as a national marine sanctuary here, which is protecting over 100 historical shipwrecks in Thunder Bay and Lake Huron. So I encourage people to visit when you're in the area because it is a lovely place. So now moving on to the next order of business, committees for commission's 2024 priorities. The commission adopted priorities for 2024, which include voting rights and diversity, equity, and inclusion. We will now hear updates from those committees, beginning with the Voting Rights Committee, for which Vice Chair Wortham serves as chair, and Commissioner Roberson and Commissioner Corriveau serve as committee members. Vice Chair Worthams, are there updates from the Voting Rights Committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, our report basically was the initiative report earlier in the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Worthams, for your update. Commissioners, are there any additional questions? Hearing none, we thank the Voting Rights Committee for your work and update. Next, we will hear from the Chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, for which Secretary Londo serves as chair, and Commissioner Barker and I serve as committee members. Commissioner Londo, are there updates from the DEI Committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will have a couple items from that committee further during this meeting, but I do want to say that Commissioner Barker and yourself and I had the pleasure of meeting end of September, early October to discuss some DEI priorities, including AI, and I look forward to getting into that more in a little bit.
AI meaning artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence.
Thank you. We thank the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for their work and update. We will now move on to item C, 2025 Commission meeting schedule and locations. Commissioners, the Executive Committee met last week and discussed the slate of meeting dates for the 2025 Commission meeting schedule. The dates we are proposing follow the traditional quarterly schedule on the fourth Monday, unless that day falls on a holiday. The dates include January 27th, April 28th, July 23rd, and October 27th. Please note that July 28th would be the date of the July meeting, but we are looking at July 23rd, as this is the date of the department's 60th anniversary, and we are proposing that the commission meet on this date to commemorate this special day. I do not know if you've had a chance to look at your calendars, but are there any conflicts with the dates presented? Commissioners? Thank you, Commissioners. I will entertain a motion to adopt the 2025 Commission schedule as presented.
So moved.
Support.
A motion has been made by Commissioner El Hassan and supported from Commissioner Wortham. Is there any discussion?
Will we be specifying locations, or will that be a subsequent motion?
That's a subsequent motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion to adopt the 2025 Commission meeting schedule, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously and the 2025 Commission meeting schedule is adopted. Commissioners, the Executive Committee also discussed the potential locations for the meetings, which include, for January, we usually convene the January meeting in Detroit as a precautionary measure for winter travel conditions. We would have a quorum there. There were no recommendations for April, but we can explore this during discussion. For July, and in celebration of the department's 60th anniversary, we discussed Lansing as a potential location. For October, we discussed Petoskey as a potential location, which I believe Commissioner Gasco would appreciate. Is there any discussion with regards to the proposed meeting locations? And are there any recommendations for a location for the April meeting? So as a reminder, we've met in, let's see if I can remember, Grand Rapids, Detroit, pardon?
Traverse City.
Traverse City, Kalamazoo, up in the UP, Escanaba, Marquette, Thompsonville.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
possibly Flint, given you know, the progress that has made there. I think it'll be good for this body to go back to the area that really generated a significant report out of this body. So just a matter of consideration.
And I believe the office will be up and running by then. Yes, thank you, Director Johnson. So the discussion is, the recommendation is for a meeting in Flint in April. So right now we are looking at, I will repeat the locations now that we are looking at. For January, Detroit. For April, Flint. For July, Lansing. And for October, Petoskey. Thank you, Commissioners. I will entertain a motion to adopt the 2025 commission meeting locations as discussed.
So moved.
Support.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Londo and supported by Commissioner El Hassan. Sorry, Roberson. Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? All in favor of the motion to adopt the 2025 commission meeting locations, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously and the 2025 commission meeting locations are adopted. Thank you, and we will move on to the next commission business. Nominating commission for the 2025 election of officers. The commission's governing rules require election of officers in January of each year. At this time, we will appoint a nominating committee of eligible commissioners consisting of a chair and 2 additional commissioners. Do we have 3 commissioners who will volunteer for the nominating committee, one of which will chair the committee?
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Yeah,
Commissioner El
we-
Hassan?
We had an opportunity to talk briefly before the start of this meeting, and I was voluntold. No, gladly offering my support to chair this committee. So Zina Al Hassan as chair, and I think I'm being supported by 2 of my wonderful colleagues, Mr. Worthams and Ms. Roberson. I think, right? Was that correct?
Correct, because we
Yeah.
also have been voluntold.
Thank you, Commissioners. So thank you, Commissioner El Hassan, for volunteering to chair the nominating committee. Thank you, Commissioner Roberson and Commissioner Worthams for volunteering to serve on the nominating committee and preparing us for the election of officers in January 2025.
So, if I may, Chair, if anyone is interested in a position on the executive board or executive commission, please email me and indicate your interest and the position title. Hopefully before January.
Or hopefully before the January meeting.
Yeah, I'd like
Before
to get that
January.
situated before
Before
January.
Yes. Yes. So absent any objection from the commission, the nominating committee is established. Thank you so much. Moving on to item E, adoption of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission's guiding principles on the use of artificial intelligence within the state of Michigan and its accompanying resolution, which is sponsored by Commissioner Londo. Commissioner Londo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. One of the priorities for the DEI committee has been the use of artificial intelligence, particularly as it relates to bias and discrimination of civil rights. This is sort of a continuation of what had been discussed at our commissioner retreat on the presentation that we had received and additional discussion related to the White House's blueprint and executive order as it relates to sort of an AI Bill of Rights and the 5 principal guidelines that they had provided nationally. So in the spirit of that, we thought it would be appropriate for this body to develop a guiding principles document, particularly as it relates to Michiganders in the state of Michigan, and hopefully applicable to state agencies and state departments. So it was a pleasure to work with Chair Lara and Commissioner Barker in tasking staff to develop a guiding principles document that really encapsulated the priorities of this commission, as well as the unique issues that we face in the state of Michigan. So we provided you all a copy of the guiding principles for the elimination and prevention of artificial intelligence bias and discrimination. And because this is a lengthy document, I'm just going to sort of read the cliff notes. The White House Office of Science and Technology Policy has provided a blueprint for an artificial intelligence Bill of Rights by identifying 5 principal guidelines for the design, use, and deployment of automated systems to protect the American public in the age of artificial intelligence. The Michigan Civil Rights Commission affirms these guidelines as practical and necessary to secure human technological advancement that observes and respects the civil rights of the people of Michigan. 1, the public should be protected from unsafe or ineffective AI systems. 2, the public should not face discrimination by algorithms, and AI systems should be used and designed in an equitable way. 3, the public should be protective from abusive data practices via built-in protections and should have agency over how data about them is used. 4, the public should know that an AI-empowered automated system is being used and understand how and why it contributes to outcomes that impacts them. And 5, the public should be able to opt out where appropriate and have access to a person who can quickly consider and remedy problems we encounter. Further, the document sort of goes into a little bit more explanation of those, as well as adds a couple additional bullet points, re-advocating for a commission on the responsible use of artificial intelligence, which is a resolution that this body passed, I believe, last year. And additionally advocating state, local, and county governments to do implementation of these guiding principles. And finally, that state, local, and county governments should partner with the proposed commission, as well as the Council for Government and Education on Equity and Inclusion, to promote and advocate for legislation and policy changes that provide civil rights protections from artificial intelligence. So with that prelude, I move adoption of the guiding principles for the elimination and prevention of artificial intelligence bias and discrimination.
Support.
So thank you, Commissioner Londo and Commissioner Worthams. This will be the guiding principles as well as resolution. Now, Attorney Satchel, I believe the resolution should be read into the record.
Yes, Madam Chair, well, you have 2 options. One is you can approve the guidelines, and then after that, approve the resolution in support of those guidelines. I think they were going to be treated, if I understand my conversation with Commissioner Londo, as separate items, so we would vote on both of them. The first being the guidelines.
Right. So now we will be voting just on the guidelines, which Commissioner Londo summarized, as well as the key items for that. Then after that, then Commissioner Londo will read the resolution into the record, and we will vote on the record on the resolution itself.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So the guiding principles, Mr. Satchel, is that a roll call vote?
Yes, Madam Chair.
All right. So is there additional discussion on the guiding principles? Seeing no hands for discussion, Mr. Satchel, will you please call the roll for adoption of the guiding principles?
Commissioner Roberson,
Yes.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Support.
Commissioner Corvo, Commissioner Barker,
Support.
Mr. Londo,
Yes.
Commissioner Worthams,
Yes.
and Commissioner Lara.
Yes.
The measure passes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Satchel. Commissioner Londo, will you please read the resolution into the record?
Yes, Madam Chair. A Michigan Civil Rights Commission resolution adopting the Michigan Civil Rights Commission's guiding principles on the use of artificial intelligence within the state of Michigan. Whereas the Michigan Civil Rights Commission is a public body established under Article 5, Section 29 of the Michigan Constitution, which vests the commission with the power to investigate alleged discrimination against any person because of religion, race, color, or national origin in the enjoyment of the civil rights guaranteed by law and by the Constitution, and to secure the equal protection of such civil rights without such discrimination. And whereas advances in technology have resulted in the exponential increase and pervasive use and application of artificial intelligence programs, software, and data analytics, both globally and nationally. And whereas there is substantial evidence that unless purposefully addressed, the tendency of artificial intelligence systems to incorporate biased and discriminatory data will result in the perpetuation of discriminatory outcomes with serious implications for the civil rights of Michigan citizens. And whereas the Michigan Civil Rights Commission recognizes the importance of early and comprehensive governmental intervention, regulation, guidance, and cooperation with impacted communities and businesses in the development of architecture and deployment of artificial intelligence. And whereas the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, recognizing the actual and potential impact of artificial intelligence in discriminatory policing practices, on April 29th, 2024, adopted a resolution recommending transparency and a responsible research-based approach in the use of artificial intelligence in policing. And whereas continued vigilance and protection of the civil rights of the citizens of Michigan in an era of rapid technological advancements requires responsible governmental entities and organizations charged with safeguarding, facilitating, and expanding the civil rights of our citizens to provide leadership, direction, and a commitment of resources to the growing issue of discrimination in the development and use of artificial intelligence. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Michigan Civil Rights Commission hereby adopts for publication and dissemination guiding principles for the elimination and prevention of artificial intelligence bias and discrimination. And be it further resolved that the guiding principles be published on the Michigan Department of Civil Rights and Michigan Civil Rights Commission's websites and presented to governmental units and officials, civic and advocacy organizations, and other entities and individuals to whom these guidelines are applicable or would be of interest. Madam Chair, I move adoption of the resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Londo. Mr. Satchel, will you please call the roll for adoption of the resolution?
Yes, Madam Chair. Commissioner Roberson,
Support.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Support.
Commissioner Corvo, Commissioner Barker,
Support.
Commissioner Londo,
Yes.
Commissioner Worthams,
Yes.
and Commissioner Laura.
Yes,
Madam Chair, the measure passes.
thank you, Attorney Satchel. The guiding principles and resolutions are adopted. Thank you, Commissioner Londo, for sponsoring this resolution along with the guiding principles. And thank you, Attorney Satchel and Mr. Hernandez, for your assistance in preparing the guiding principles, and Attorney Satchel for preparing the resolution. Our final commission business item is item F, resolution in support of the passage of Senate Bills 205-207, which is sponsored by Commissioner Londo. Commissioner Londo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask y'all to bear with me as this is a little bit more of a lengthy resolution. Resolution in support of legislation prohibiting income discrimination in housing. Whereas the Michigan Civil Rights Commission is a public body established under the power to investigate alleged discrimination against any person because of religion, race, color, or national origin in the enjoyment of civil rights guaranteed by law and by the Constitution, and to secure the equal protection of such civil rights without such discrimination. And whereas affordable and decent shelter in the form of housing serves at a minimum as a foundation for the enjoyment of life, an essential means of protection and safety, a vital component to the prosperity of a community, and an opportunity for individuals and families to escape the burdens of poverty. And whereas a significant number of potential and actual renters nationwide and specifically in the state of Michigan, rely on various forms of assistance, including federal Section 8 housing vouchers, child support, veterans benefits, Social Security, unemployment benefits, disability benefits, child support, or other forms of rental assistance. And whereas the use of housing vouchers allows individuals and families to move from racially segregated, high poverty neighborhoods, which individuals and families, studies have shown, are more likely to experience substandard employment, educational, and health outcomes compared to families living in integrated neighborhoods that provided more opportunities. And whereas there exist well-documented and prevalent cases of source of income discrimination against individuals seeking rental housing. And whereas the issue of source of income discrimination in housing is a well-documented phenomenon that has been widely researched and publicized, including by the Poverty and Race Research Action Council, which is systematically and comprehensively prepared and updated in September 2024, what it describes as a compilation of state, local, and federal statutes prohibiting discrimination in the housing market based on source of income, along with an annotated bibliography of studies and published articles relating to discrimination against families with federal housing choice vouchers. And whereas several reputable advocacy organizations have recommended the adoption of legislation to address source of income discrimination in rental housing, including the American Bar Association, who in August of 2017 passed a resolution urging federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial governments to enact legislation prohibiting discrimination in housing on the basis of lawful source of income, with an accompanying report highlighting the significant impact of source of income discrimination on families seeking to use housing choice voucher to escape racially segregated, high poverty neighborhoods and recognizing the human right to adequate housing for all. Whereas while properties financed with low-income housing tax credits are required to accept vouchers as a source of income, there are no comprehensive federal laws prohibiting source of income discrimination, and state housing agencies remain responsible for monitoring low-income housing tax credits, property owners for compliance, and whereas several states and local units of government have addressed this unfortunate and devastating form of housing discrimination through enactment of legislation and ordinances prohibiting landlords from discriminating against renters based on source of income. And whereas several Michigan local governments provide some source of income protection, including, for example, Ann Arbor, East Lansing, Ferndale, Grand Rapids, Hazel Park, Holland, Jackson, Kalamazoo, Kentwood, Lansing, Oak Park, Royal Oak Township, and Wyoming. And whereas the Michigan Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act and the Michigan Persons with Disabilities Civil Rights Act currently prohibit housing discrimination against specific protected classifications other than source of income. And whereas the Michigan legislature has proposed legislation that prescribes housing discrimination based on a current or prospective tenant source of income under consideration set forth in Senate Bill 205, 206, and 207, and companion House Bills 4062 and 4063. And whereas Senate Bill 207 and House Bill 4063 specifically amend the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to prohibit landlords with 5 or more rental units from discriminating against prospective or current tenants based on their source of income under circumstances set forth in the proposed legislation. And whereas the Michigan Civil Rights Commission convened fair housing hearings on November 28, 2023 in the city of Detroit, February 7, 2024 virtually, March 16, 2024 in the city of Flint, and April 28, 2024 in the city of Grand Rapids, and a fair housing summit on July 12, 2024 in the city of Detroit, during which events the Michigan Civil Rights Commission and Michigan Department of Civil Rights received several public comments from citizens across the state, highlighting the negative impact of source of income discrimination in rental housing on low-income individuals and persons with disabilities within the state of Michigan. And whereas the Michigan Civil Rights Commission supports all responsible legislative and executive efforts to address source of income discrimination against prospective and current renters. And whereas the Michigan Civil Rights Commission, in observation of and in deference to its constitutional mandate, embraces all legislative attempts to secure the protections and facilitate the expansion of the civil rights of Michigan citizens with respect to housing. And therefore, be it resolved that the Michigan Civil Rights Commission hereby supports and recommends passage of all reasonable and responsible legislation prohibiting discrimination against current or prospective renters based on their source of income, and urges the Michigan legislature to continue its vigilance in the protection, facilitation, and expansion of civil rights of the citizens of Michigan. And it is further resolved that this resolution be provided to the sponsors of the aforementioned proposed legislation, Speaker of the House, Speaker pro tempore, majority and minority leaders of the Michigan House of Representatives, Senate President pro tempore, majority and minority leaders of the Michigan Senate, and Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Madam Chair, I move adoption.
Thank you, Commissioner Londo. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner El Hassan. Before we vote, Attorney Satchel, I do not know if record needs to be corrected because Commissioner Londo read the date of the Fair Housing Summit as July 12th, 2024, when it was actually June 12th, 2024 in the city of Detroit.
Oh, Madam Chair, if you approve the document, we'll go with that. So it doesn't, you can correct them now, but it's the document that you vote on that'll be a part of the record. So
As long as we're voting on the document.
okay.
I
Great.
apologize.
Thank you.
I want the voiceover, actually.
As long as it's only that
All the
section.
representatives.
Feels-
We can have Commissioner Wortham stub it with a little bit of, with his DJing skills.
Right, that would be
Yeah,
really-
yes, that's exactly auto tune.
Yes.
Well,
Visit your
I
studio
would
later.
glad to be able to do that.
All right, commissioners, thank you. Mr. Satchel, will you please call the roll for adoption of the resolution?
Yes, Madam Chair. Commissioner Roberson,
Support.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Support.
Commissioner Corvo, Commissioner Barker,
Support.
Commissioner Londo,
Yes.
Commissioner Worthams,
Yes.
Commissioner Lara.
Yes,
Madam Chair, the measure passes.
thank you, Attorney Satchel. The motion carries unanimously and the resolution is adopted. Thank you, Commissioner Londo, for sponsoring this resolution. And thank you, Attorney Satchel, for your assistance in preparing this resolution. Commissioners, we have one new business item before us. Specifically, the Commission's review of the Executive Director's performance evaluation. Executive Director Johnson has formally requested a closed session. I will entertain a motion to convene a closed session for discussion of this personnel matter. A motion has been made by Commissioner, there we go. Got out of my script. Yes. Commissioner Roberson has moved to convene in closed session.
Madam Chair, because,
Yes,
Madam Chair, because of the nature of
right.
this motion, it should be read into the record.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Londo?
the motion that was made was that the Civil Rights Commission, having under consideration the matter of the Executive Director's annual performance evaluation, and the Executive Director having formally requested the matter to be discussed in closed session, it was moved that we meet in closed session under Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act to consider the Executive Director's performance evaluation.
Thank you. A motion has been made by Commissioner Londo. Is there a second?
Support.
We have support from Commissioner Worthams. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Attorney Satchel, will you please call the roll?
Yes,
The motion,
Commissioner Roberson,
Support.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Support.
Commissioner Corvo,
Yes.
Commissioner Barker,
Support.
Commissioner Londo,
Yes.
Commissioner Worthams,
Yes.
and Commissioner Lara.
yes,
Madam Chair, the measure passes.
The motion carries unanimously and the commission will convene the closed session. At this time, we ask that everyone except the commissioners, Director Johnson, and Attorney Satchel clear the meeting room temporarily for closed session. The time is 11:41. Following closed session, we will reassemble back to this meeting to continue the final two agenda items. Commissioner closing. Excuse me. I believe we need to have one more public comment.
Do this on the agenda for after the close.
Right. Yes. So following closed session, we will reassemble back to this meeting room to continue the final two agenda items, commissioner closing comments and adjournment, along with the second open public comments. The Zoom recorder should continue recording. The timekeeper should post a sign indicating that we will reconvene following closed session. Thank you. I now call the meeting of the Civil Rights Commission back to order. The time is 12:18. Closed session has concluded and our guests may return to the meeting room. The timekeeper has removed the display regarding closed session. Commissioners, I will entertain a motion to reconvene the meeting of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission.
So moved.
We already did that.
Second.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Roberson and supported from Commissioner El Hassan. Is there any discussion? Mr. Satchel, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Parker,
Support.
Commissioner Corvo. Support. Commissioner El Hassan,
Support.
Commissioner Roberson,
Support.
Commissioner Londo,
Yes.
Commissioner Worthams.
Yes.
Commissioner Lara.
Yes.
Passes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously and the meeting of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission is reconvened. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and cooperation. Commissioners, I will now entertain a motion for an action resulting from closed session. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Worthams. There is a motion on the floor.
I still need to
sorry.
make the motion.
Sorry.
Madam Chair, based on our discussions during the closed session about the director's performance and our evaluation of the last fiscal year, his strong actions, the leadership that he's provided for the department, and his plans for the following year. I make the following motion. I move that the commission approve a 5% salary increase for Executive Director Johnson for fiscal year 2025, which is consistent with the other department employees, and a 5% one-time performance bonus for the 2024 fiscal year, which it was also granted to similarly eligible department employees.
Thank you, Commissioner Worthams. There is a motion on the floor. A motion has been made, and is there a second?
Second.
We have support from Commissioner El Hassan. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Londo?
I'd like to echo Commissioner Worthing's comments and just articulate that I absolutely believe that the executive director has done an exemplary job working with staff to close previous cases, securing additional funding for the department for fiscal year 2024, and just guiding through the casework as we've closed more cases than we have taken on and addressed the backlog sufficiently.
Thank you, Commissioner Londo. Are there any additional comments?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Worthams?
I echo what Commissioner Londo has said, and I'll just add that we've seen over the past fiscal year the director provide some very strong leadership in developing employees within the department, making sure that they've received training to address not just the case backlog that we've been focused on for many years, but just how they operate and communicate with one another. And making some personnel decisions that in some universes might have been challenging, but here challenging but necessary. And I think indicates and really kind of epitomizes the strength of his leadership. And I look forward to more of that in the future. And it's really been an honor to work with him as commissioner and to see him in the role that he has today.
Thank you, Commissioner Worthams. Any other items of discussion?
Ditto. I
Yes.
agree.
And I also would like to add my ditto and concurrence with what has been stated earlier. I'd also like to focus on the fact that the department, the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, is now being seen across the state as being focused on the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. This is due to having the housing summits throughout the state, through the commission being able to meet around the state, and to providing additional opportunities for education as well as engaging with other agencies and organizations to spread the education of what people's rights are. So thank you, Director.
Thank you.
There's no further discussion. We will now vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Roll call, that's what I thought. Yes, Attorney Satchel, will you please do a roll call vote?
Yes, Madam Chair. Commissioner Roberson,
Support.
Commissioner El Hassan,
Support.
Commissioner Corvo, Commissioner Barker,
Support.
Commissioner Londo,
Yes.
Commissioner Worthams,
Yes.
and Commissioner Lara.
Yes,
Madam Chair, the measure passes.
thank you. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, commissioners.
No, thank you.
Thank you. And thank the department as well. This is a second public comment opportunity we mentioned earlier, and we will continue to follow the same protocol set forth by Kim Woolridge earlier in the meeting. Mark Bishop will continue to serve as virtual timekeeper. Ms. Sanford, have we received all the forms?
Yes, Madam Chair. Jesse Osmer, the County Administrator of Alpena, he is joining us through the live stream. So if he could please be promoted to panelist.
There should be Osmer J on the Zoom.
Jesse Osmer, yes.
Good to go. Sorry.
The record, name and your city of residence.
My name is Jesse Osmer, Alpena County Administrator, Alpena County.
You have 2 minutes for your public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to begin by expressing my gratitude for the commission to visit our area and to hold your meeting here. We're kind of forgotten up here in Northeast Michigan often, so we really appreciate any attention we can get, and especially you taking the time and making the trek up here. We know it's kind of out of the way, but hopefully, you found our area welcoming. I also would like to thank the chairwoman for her kind words about my hometown in the beginning of her statement. Other than being known as a Sunrise Side, our other slogan is we're a warm and friendly port. So we welcome our fellow Michiganders who would like to make the trip up here to visit, as well as those out of state. I just want to also thank you for your emphasis today on discussing things like the environmental accessibility and preserving civil rights of those differently abled. We're actually approaching that effort here in Alpena ourselves. We have 3 county parks. We're applying for grants right now to help with those who are visiting, who are differently able to be able to access the waterways and enjoy our natural resources. And also, finally, I want to express appreciation. I apologize for Commissioner Londo's focus on AI and prioritizing that issue, encouraging our state agencies to safeguard the civil rights of Michiganders in that platform. Something that's really picking up steam, and I really think it's important, especially going into election cycles and whatnot, when we see a big pickup. So again, just wanted to thank the commission for visiting us, and hopefully you'll consider coming again.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your comments. Having some issues with the audio. This conclude. Are there any other public comments? No, thank you. This concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. Our next agenda item is commissioner closing comments. My fellow commissioners, are there any closing comments before we adjourn? Commissioner Londo?
I'd like to thank this body for visiting Northeast Michigan. I actually had the pleasure of living in Alpena for about 4 months back in 2016. And I got here early on Friday and really enjoyed spending the last few days being reminded of how beautiful the Sunrise Side is. I spent a lot of time with some old friends as well as some members of the community, and a constant theme that I got when I told them why I was here was genuine gratitude for being accessible, for being present in areas of the state where There might not be a lot of Michiganders, but they felt like it's extremely important that state agencies and state bodies are present in the communities that they live in, and it just makes it a little bit less abstract for them. I want to thank County Administrator Jesse Osmer for his kind words. He is doing an exemplary job for the county, and particularly in addressing a substantial budget deficit. I'm very, very lucky to call him a friend. He's actually a former colleague. Congratulations again, Jesse, for the birth of your daughter 5 weeks ago. And thank you for taking time away from your contract negotiations to sit with us and to give remarks. I genuinely believe that AI is the most consequential development since the advent of the internet. And it's not inherently good or bad. It is just merely a tool. I'm extremely appreciative of this commission's foresight in encouraging the state as well as state agencies and departments to ensure that it is a tool for good that prioritizes the civil rights of Michiganders, especially as state agencies like DTMB begin developing their strategy in the employment of AI. And finally, I'd like to commend the department for the Voting as a Civil Right campaign. It has performed extraordinarily well across social channels. As somebody that does communications as a day job, I'm jealous of the level of performance that that campaign has had. 3.4 million impressions across social is impressive, but what's also impressive is I'm seeing it consistently across my network of people and close friends who I love dearly, but I wouldn't consider them particularly engaged in a lot of things that relate to politics. So seeing that organic content being shared amongst my friend group is genuinely a source of pride for me. And in that vein, I hope everybody exercises their civil right on or before November 5th. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Londo. Other commissioners?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Worthams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just again, want to express my gratefulness to the Alpena community for hosting us. While I wasn't able to join you over the weekend, driving up this morning, being able to actually watch the sunset the sunrise as it coming over the hills was just spectacular. And trust me when I say I look forward to coming back, not as a commissioner, just as Joe Blow, a Michigander, just to spend some time up here and to enjoy the town. I also want to express my gratefulness to Commissioners Corvo and Laura. Not knowing what the governor might do in the next few weeks, this is very well could be the last time that we're together, and I am grateful to both of you for your leadership and for your examples that you set for us on this commission. The time that you've investing to improve the civil rights of all Michiganders in all parts of the state has really been a blessing. So my gratefulness to both of you. And if the governor says that you get 4 more years with us, then I look forward to our continued work. And if the governor says no, then please know that we will do our best to continue to carry the flag and to carry the effort where you've brought us so far. So thank you. And lastly, friends, happy Halloween and go Lions.
Thank you, Commissioner Worthams. Are there any other comments? So as Commissioner Wortham stated, this is my last meeting for my term as a Civil Rights Commissioner, and I'm very pleased and have been honored to serve as your chair for this year. Some things, as I look over the past year, I'm really focused on in the entire state of Michigan, and having attended the Fair Housing Summit, as well as all the different hearings across the state, really indicate to me that what we think might be normal in our lives isn't always the same for everyone. Particularly if you are a protected class or you're having issues. A lot of this came out during the housing hearings. The Civil Rights Summit was another event that I thought was quite amazing to really have people, again, from across the state, as well as different organizations and agencies, Commissioner, like I mentioned. And the Michigan Response to Hate Conference held in Lansing was also, I think, another highlight. But for me, and then finalizing and getting the Native American study going, and hopefully I will be able to read the conclusions and the summary at the end of January, regardless of whether or not I remain on the commission. But for me, the highlight has been the voting rights efforts. We passed the resolution, which I believe I introduced through the commission in 2022. And it's been exciting to see this spread throughout the state, because regardless of your political persuasion or what you think, being able to exercise your right to vote as a citizen is really the base of everything that we do, the base of our government, of our republic, of our laws. So again, thank you for your support and thank you for your engagement, and please continue forward. So now we are moving on to our final agenda item, adjournment. As we adjourn this meeting of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission, please note that our next meeting will convene on Monday, January 27, 2025 in Detroit at a time and location to be determined. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Madam Chair.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Worthams. Is there a second?
Second.
We have support from Commissioner Barker. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to adjourn carries unanimously, and the meeting of the Michigan Civil Rights Commission is adjourned. The time is 12:35. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.